the long-awaited film on Mark Kerr. Looks like it is. I thought this thing was dead because this was announced way back in 2019 that Dwayne Johnson's $7 production, they had gotten the rights to Mark Kerr's story. That, I mean, have you ever seen The Smashing Machine?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, excellent documentary if you want to seek it out. But yeah, it's going forward, and this is going to be produced by A24, Pro Wrestling and MMA's friendly production house.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do wonder if these maybe critical success thus far of the Iron Claw, maybe the interest in the Iron Claw is help them, look towards.
There's going to be a lot of buzz on this film with the Iron Claw. I mean, it's you're starting to see a lot of very positive reviews coming out. I mean, some outlet had it as like one of the top 10 films of the year. So I mean, that they can't buy press like that. So yeah, but this will be happening, and they've also assigned a writer to it. Benny Safdie will be the writer and director. Are you familiar with him? I am not.
Yeah, the Safdie brothers, like, they've worked on some Adam Sandler, like Uncut Gems, along with like a lot of like he's part of Nathan Fielder's The Curse right now. So I'm certainly incredibly interested in this. I mean, number one, it's it's one of like the first great I think MMA documentaries that's ever existed, and it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson attached to it. And considering,
I'd argue it still might be the best MMA documentary. I mean, it's there's not a crazy deep list of them, but it was excellent. I haven't watched it in several years, but I was just blown away when I first saw it.
Yeah, and considering it's A24 now attached to, you're going to be expecting maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at his most maybe serious, most dramatic, and it's not just going to be an action movie, even though I'm sure there will be plenty of that. So who plays the other members of the Pride roster of that era, you think?
You really need a great convincing like Mark Coleman in there. I mean, you're gonna have. I mean, just think of like those UFC 14 and 15 tournaments he was in, and then Pride. I mean, did Dwayne Johnson and Mark Kerr ever fight in Pride?
Maybe that was Dwayne Johnson teeing up this project with that.
It is amazing that we have 51-year-old Dwayne Johnson playing like mid-20s Mark Kerr in this film.
They might have to put some CGI on that to make him.
I don't think Dwayne Johnson needs much CGI. I don't know what his secret is.
But the story is going to be kind of touchy, don't you think? With substance abuse, steroids, and
the Mark Kerr story. It's steroids, it's drug abuse, it's. And this was a guy that at a period, like he was viewed as like the heavyweight star that was going to break through. But when the UFC was sort of in their darkest period, and then he goes to Pride, he was a big deal at a time. This is pre Ultimate Fighter boom. That Mark Kerr in the late 90s, he was, and then becomes this kind of tragic figure, and then keeps it was just piling up loss after loss, and it was. It's a sad story involving Mark Kerr, but one that it's a riveting story at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't know how much like I've necessarily heard Dwayne Johnson speak about the topic of steroids. I'm sure he has plenty of times in the media, but this is kind of him diving into the topic, right? So during the press tour, I'm sure he's going to be talking about that a lot.